Water covers most of our planet, yet the ocean remains one of the least explored places on Earth. What we do know, through decades of scientific research and observation, reveals a world operating by rules very different from those on land. These are facts we can measure, observe, and verify. Facts that have been documented through research vessels, submersibles, satellites, and countless hours of careful study. The ocean contains 321 million cubic miles of water. To put that in perspective, if you could somehow package all that water into 1-mile cubes and line them up, they would stretch from Earth to the Sun and back over 50 times. This massive volume represents 96.5% of all water on Earth. All the rivers, lakes, ice, groundwater, and atmospheric moisture combined make up just 3.5%. Ocean water weighs approximately 1.025 grams per cubic centimeter, slightly more than fresh water due to dissolved salts. This means the total mass of the ocean is about 1.4 billion trillion kilograms. That's 1.4 with 18 zeros after it. The ocean is so massive that it represents about 0.023% of Earth's total mass. The ocean floor is younger than the continents. While continental rocks can be 4 billion years old, the oldest ocean floor is only about 280 million years old. This is because oceanic crust is constantly being created at mid-ocean ridges and destroyed at subduction zones. The seafloor you could see on a map today didn't exist 300 million years ago and won't exist 300 million years from now. At mid-ocean ridges, magma rises from Earth's mantle and solidifies into new oceanic crust at a rate of about 2 to 20 centimeters per year. This process, discovered in the 1960s, confirmed the theory of plate tectonics and revolutionized our understanding of how Earth works. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge, for example, is slowly pushing North America and Europe apart at about the rate your fingernails grow. The deepest point in the ocean is Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, reaching 10,994 meters below sea level, or about 36,070 feet. If Mount Everest were placed at the bottom of Challenger Deep, its peak would still be over 2 kilometers underwater. The pressure at this depth exceeds 1,000 atmospheres, or about 16,000 pounds per square inch. At such pressures, water becomes significantly more dense. A block of wood that floats at the surface would sink at great depth due to compression. Air-filled spaces collapse completely, yet life exists even here, adapted to conditions that seem impossible. The average ocean depth is 3,688 meters, or about 12,100 feet. This is deeper than most mountains are tall. If you could stand on the average ocean floor, you'd be under more than 2 miles of water. The pressure would be about 375 atmospheres, enough to crush most human-made objects. Light penetration in seawater is limited by absorption and scattering. Red light is absorbed within the first 15 to 30 feet. Orange disappears by 50 feet. Yellow by 100 feet. Green and blue light penetrate deepest, which is why deep water appears blue. By 200 meters depth, even blue light is almost gone. Below about 1,000 meters, sunlight is completely absent. This means that about 90% of the ocean's volume exists in perpetual darkness. The ocean is mostly a dark place where organisms have evolved to live without sunlight, relying on other senses and energy sources. Sound, however, travels well through water. Sound speed in seawater averages about 1,500 meters per second, compared to 343 meters per second in air. Sound also travels much farther in water before dissipating. Under the right conditions, low-frequency sounds can propagate across entire ocean basins, thousands of kilometers. This property allows whales to communicate over vast distances. The low-frequency calls of blue whales and fin whales, which can reach 188 decibels, can be detected by other whales over 1,000 miles away. These calls are among the loudest sounds produced by any animal. Temperature in the ocean varies from about -2 degrees Celsius in polar waters to over 30 degrees Celsius in tropical surface waters. Seawater can remain liquid below 0 degrees Celsius because salt lowers the freezing point. The more salt in the water, the lower the temperature must be for freezing to occur. The ocean has distinct temperature layers. The surface mixed layer, typically the top 100 to 200 meters, is relatively warm and well mixed by wind and waves. Below this is the thermocline, a zone where temperature drops rapidly with depth. Below the thermocline, deep ocean water maintains temperatures near 2 to 4 degrees Celsius year-round, even in tropical regions. This temperature stratification is stable in tropical and temperate regions, but breaks down in polar regions during winter, allowing deep mixing that brings nutrients to the surface. This seasonal mixing supports highly productive polar ecosystems despite cold temperatures. The ocean contains approximately 50 quadrillion tons of dissolved salt and minerals. If you could extract all this salt and spread it evenly over Earth's land surface, it would form a layer about 500 feet thick. The most abundant dissolved ion is chloride, followed by sodium. Together, sodium and chloride make up about 85% of dissolved salts, which is why seawater tastes salty. But seawater contains virtually every naturally occurring element. Magnesium, sulfate, calcium, and potassium are present in significant quantities. Trace elements include iron, manganese, copper, zinc, and even gold. There's approximately 20 million tons of gold dissolved in the ocean, though it's so diluted, about 13 billionths of a gram per liter, that extracting it would cost far more than the gold's value. Salinity varies geographically. The Atlantic Ocean averages about 35 parts per thousand, while the Pacific averages slightly less, at 34 parts per thousand. The Mediterranean Sea reaches 38 parts per thousand due to high evaporation and limited freshwater input. The Baltic Sea drops to 7 parts per thousand due to heavy river discharge and limited connection to the open ocean. The Red Sea has the highest salinity of any major ocean body at about 41 parts per thousand. The Dead Sea, though technically a lake, reaches 337 parts per thousand, making it nearly 10 times saltier than the ocean. At this extreme salinity, only specialized microorganisms can survive. Ocean pH is slightly alkaline, averaging about 8.1. This has remained relatively stable for millions of years. Since the Industrial Revolution, however, ocean pH has decreased by about 0.1 units, representing a 30% increase in acidity. This change is occurring faster than at any time in the past 300 million years. The decrease results from the ocean absorbing about 30% of human CO2 emissions. When CO2 dissolves in seawater, it forms carbonic acid. This reaction is well understood chemistry. CO2 plus H2O yields H2CO3, which dissociates into hydrogen ions and bicarbonate ions. The increased hydrogen ion concentration lowers pH. This ocean acidification affects organisms that build shells or skeletons from calcium carbonate. In more acidic water, calcium carbonate dissolves more readily and is harder to precipitate. Laboratory experiments show that many mollusks, corals, and planktonic organisms produce thinner shells or grow more slowly in acidified conditions. The ocean absorbs and stores heat more effectively than any other substance on Earth's surface. Water has a specific heat capacity of 4.18 joules per gram per degree Celsius, higher than almost any other common substance. This means the ocean can absorb enormous amounts of heat energy with only modest temperature increases. Since 1970, the ocean has absorbed more than 90% of the excess heat trapped by greenhouse gases. The top 700 meters of ocean have warmed by an average of 0.18 degrees Celsius per decade since 1993. This might seem small, but given the ocean's enormous volume, it represents an almost incomprehensible amount of energy, equivalent to detonating several atomic bombs every second for decades. Ocean currents transport this heat around the globe. The Gulf Stream carries warm water northward at a rate of about 30 million cubic meters per second, transporting about 1.4 petawatts of heat energy, more than 100 times the world's energy consumption. This heat moderates the climate of Western Europe significantly. The Antarctic circumpolar current is even larger, transporting about 135 million cubic meters per second as it flows around Antarctica. This current effectively isolates Antarctic waters from warmer waters to the north, helping maintain the Antarctic ice sheet. Deep ocean circulation, driven by density differences, moves water very slowly. Water sinking in the North Atlantic takes about 1,000 years to circulate through the deep ocean and return to the surface. This means water in the deepest parts of the ocean today last contacted the atmosphere around the year 1000. This slow circulation has important implications. Pollutants that dissolve in deep water can persist for centuries. Climate changes affecting deep circulation take centuries to fully manifest. The deep ocean represents a long-term memory of past conditions. Waves on the ocean surface are primarily generated by wind. The size of waves depends on wind speed, wind duration, and fetch, the distance over which wind blows. In the open ocean during major storms, waves commonly reach 30 to 40 feet from trough to crest. The largest wave reliably measured was 95 feet, recorded by a buoy during a North Atlantic storm in 1995. However, rogue waves, exceptionally large waves that appear without warning, can exceed 100 feet. These were long considered myths by oceanographers, but have been confirmed by satellite observations and ship reports. A wave hitting the Dropner oil platform in the North Sea in 1995 measured 84 feet, confirming that such waves exist. The energy in waves is proportional to the square of wave height. A 4-foot wave carries 16 units of energy per unit width, while an 8-foot wave carries 64 units. This is why large waves can cause so much damage. Their energy increases dramatically with height. Tsunamis are fundamentally different from wind waves. They are generated by underwater earthquakes, landslides, or volcanic eruptions that displace water vertically. In deep ocean, tsunamis have very long wavelengths, 100 kilometers or more, and small heights of just 1 to 2 feet. Ships at sea typically don't notice them passing. But tsunamis travel at speeds determined by water depth. In 4,000-meter deep water, tsunami speed is about 700 kilometers per hour, the speed of a jet aircraft. As tsunamis enter shallow coastal waters, they slow dramatically and grow much taller as water piles up. A tsunami barely noticeable in deep water can become 30, 50, or 100 feet tall at shore. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami traveled across the entire Indian Ocean basin. Tide gauge records show it was detected as far away as Antarctica. The energy released by the earthquake that triggered it was equivalent to 23,000 atomic bombs. This energy spread across the ocean, devastating coastlines in over a dozen countries. Tides result from gravitational pull of the moon and sun. The moon's gravity pulls water toward it, creating a bulge on the side of Earth facing the moon. A second bulge occurs on the opposite side because Earth itself is pulled more than the water on the far side. As Earth rotates, these bulges move around the planet, creating high and low tides. Most coastal locations experience 2 high tides and 2 low tides daily, about 12 hours and 25 minutes apart. The extra 25 minutes occurs because the moon itself moves in its orbit around Earth. so Earth must rotate slightly more than 360 degrees for the same point to face the Moon again. Spring tides, the highest tides, occur during new and full moons when Sun and Moon align, combining their gravitational pull. Neap tides, the lowest tides, occur during quarter moons when Sun and Moon are at right angles, partially cancelling each other's effects. The difference between spring and neap tides can exceed 20 feet in some locations. The Bay of Fundy in Canada experiences the world's highest tides, with ranges exceeding 50 feet during spring tides. The bay's funnel shape and resonance period amplify tidal movements. Water rushes in and out twice daily with tremendous force, creating strong currents and unique ecosystems adapted to extreme tidal ranges. Tidal forces do more than move water. They cause Earth's solid crust to flex up and down by about 30 centimeters as tides pass. This tidal flexing generates heat through friction deep within Earth. Tidal forces also gradually slow Earth's rotation and cause the Moon to recede from Earth at about 3.8 centimeters per year. Billions of years ago, Earth rotated much faster and the Moon was much closer. Days were only 6 hours long and the Moon appeared much larger in the sky. Tidal forces have been gradually slowing Earth's rotation and pushing the Moon away ever since. In the far future, Earth's rotation will slow until one side permanently faces the Moon, though this will take billions of years. The ocean plays a crucial role in Earth's carbon cycle. Phytoplankton, microscopic algae in surface waters, absorb CO2 through photosynthesis, incorporating carbon into organic matter. When these organisms die, some sink to deep water or the seafloor, effectively removing carbon from the atmosphere for hundreds to millions of years. This biological carbon pump removes an estimated 10 billion tons of carbon from the atmosphere annually. Without it, atmospheric CO2 would be much higher. The pump depends on nutrients, sunlight, and ocean circulation patterns that bring nutrients to surface waters. Upwelling zones, where deep water rises to the surface, are particularly important. Deep water is cold and nutrient-rich, having accumulated nutrients from decomposing organic matter. When this water reaches the sunlit surface, phytoplankton blooms occur, supporting highly productive ecosystems. The most productive upwelling zones are off Peru, California, and West Africa. Though these zones represent less than 1% of ocean area, they produce about 50% of global fish catch. The high productivity results from consistent nutrient supply from deep water rising to the surface. Dissolved oxygen in seawater comes from two sources: diffusion from the atmosphere at the surface and production by photosynthetic organisms. Cold water holds more dissolved oxygen than warm water. At 0 degrees Celsius, seawater holds about 11 milligrams of oxygen per liter. At 30 degrees Celsius, it holds only about 6 milligrams per liter. This temperature dependence means polar waters, despite being cold, have high oxygen concentrations supporting abundant life. Tropical surface waters have lower oxygen, but are still well oxygenated due to mixing with atmosphere and photosynthetic production. At certain depths, typically 200 to 1,000 meters, oxygen minimum zones occur where dissolved oxygen drops dramatically. These zones form because organic matter sinking from surface waters is decomposed by bacteria that consume oxygen, while the water is too deep to easily mix with oxygen-rich surface water. Oxygen minimum zones create barriers that many species cannot cross. Fish and other animals that require high oxygen concentrations cannot survive there. Some specialized species have adapted to low oxygen, but diversity and abundance are much lower than in well-oxygenated waters. The ocean contains an estimated 1 to 2 million species, though only about 250,000 have been formally described. This means roughly 75 to 90% of marine species remain unknown to science. Every year, about 2,000 new marine species are described, but at this rate, it would take centuries to document all ocean life. Biomass distribution in the ocean differs dramatically from land. On land, plants make up most biomass. In the ocean, despite phytoplankton being primary producers, they represent relatively small biomass because they are tiny and have short lifespans. Animals, particularly fish, represent a much larger proportion of marine biomass than terrestrial animals represent on land. The total biomass of fish in the ocean is estimated at 800 million to 2 billion tons. This might seem large, but it's decreased substantially from pre-industrial levels. Scientists estimate that biomass of large predatory fish has declined by about 90% since industrial fishing began. Phytoplankton biomass in the ocean is estimated at only about 3 billion tons, despite producing about 50% of Earth's oxygen. This small biomass is possible because individual phytoplankton cells reproduce very rapidly. Some species divide multiple times per day. The entire phytoplankton population turns over roughly every week, maintaining high productivity from low biomass. Zooplankton, microscopic animals that feed on phytoplankton, are estimated at 1 to 2 billion tons. Copepods, tiny crustaceans about the size of rice grains, are probably the most abundant multicellular animals on Earth. There may be more individual copepods than any other animal with more than one cell. Krill, shrimp-like creatures found primarily in polar waters, have total biomass estimated at 300 to 500 million tons. Antarctic krill alone may comprise 400 million tons, making it one of Earth's most abundant animal species by mass. Krill form massive swarms visible from space and are crucial food for whales, seals, penguins, and many fish species. Whales, despite their enormous individual size, have relatively small total biomass. Before commercial whaling, large whale populations totaled about 1 million individuals with combined biomass around 60 million tons. After whaling reduced populations by 90% or more, current whale biomass is estimated at 10 to 20 million tons. Sharks and rays total about 50 to 100 million tons globally. Many shark populations have declined by 70 to 90% due to overfishing. Sharks reproduce slowly, making them particularly vulnerable to overfishing. Some species don't reach sexual maturity until age 15 or older. Coral reefs cover less than 0.1% of ocean area, but support about 25% of all marine fish species. A single reef can harbor over 4,000 species. Reefs provide habitat, nursery grounds, and feeding areas for countless species, while also protecting coastlines from storm waves. Coral polyps, the tiny animals that build reefs, grow slowly. Most reef-building corals add less than 1 centimeter of skeleton per year. Large coral colonies are often centuries old. The oldest known coral colony, a brain coral in the Caribbean, is over 900 years old. Mangrove forests occupy about 150,000 square kilometers of tropical coastline. These specialized trees grow with their roots submerged in saltwater, conditions that would kill most plants. Mangroves stabilize coastlines, filter pollutants, provide nursery habitat for fish, and store large amounts of carbon in their biomass and sediments. Seagrass beds cover about 300,000 square kilometers globally. These underwater meadows of flowering plants support diverse communities, including fish, crustaceans, and sea turtles. Seagrasses are among the most productive ecosystems on Earth, with some species capable of doubling their biomass in just weeks. The deep sea, the vast volume below 200 meters, comprises about 95% of the ocean's volume. This enormous space was once thought nearly lifeless, but we now know it harbors diverse communities, though life is less dense than in surface waters. Food reaches the deep sea primarily as marine snow, a constant rain of dead organisms, fecal pellets, and organic debris falling from surface waters. The flux of organic matter decreases exponentially with depth. Only about 1 to 3% of organic matter produced in surface waters reaches 1,000 meters depth. Deep-sea animals have adapted to survive on this limited food through slow metabolisms, efficient food use, and opportunistic feeding. Many deep-sea fish can eat prey larger than themselves and can survive months between meals. Some have expandable stomachs that allow them to consume and store large meals when encountered. Hydrothermal vents are oases in the deep sea. These underwater hot springs occur along mid-ocean ridges where seawater seeps into cracks, is heated by magma, and erupts back into the ocean. Vent water can exceed 400 degrees Celsius but doesn't boil due to extreme pressure. Vents support high biomass based on chemosynthetic bacteria that use chemicals, particularly hydrogen sulfide, from vent water as energy sources. These bacteria form the base of vent food webs. Giant tube worms, clams, mussels, crabs, and fish thrive around vents despite conditions: high temperature, high pressure, toxic chemicals that would kill most life. Tube worms at vents can grow over 6 feet long. They have no mouth or digestive system. Instead, chemosynthetic bacteria live inside specialized organs in their bodies. The worms absorb hydrogen sulfide from vent water through their plumes and transport it to the bacteria, which use it to produce organic compounds that the worm absorbs. Fish in the ocean number an estimated 3.5 trillion individuals. This includes only fish large enough to be counted in surveys. Larval and juvenile fish would increase this number by orders of magnitude. There are over 35,000 known fish species, more than all other vertebrate species combined. The largest fish is the whale shark, which can exceed 18 meters in length and weigh over 20 tons. Despite their size, whale sharks are filter feeders, swimming slowly with their enormous mouths open to strain plankton and small fish from the water. The smallest fish is Pediciprus progenetica, which reaches just 7.9 millimeters when fully grown. These tiny fish live in peat swamps in Indonesia. The smallest marine fish is the stout infant fish at about 7 millimeters, found in coral reefs. Fish heart rates vary enormously with temperature and activity. At rest in cold water, some fish have heart rates below 10 beats per minute. During maximum activity in warm water, some tuna hearts beat over 250 times per minute. Tuna are unusual among fish in being partially warm-blooded, maintaining body temperatures above surrounding water through metabolic heat production. Fish swim bladders are gas-filled organs that provide buoyancy, allowing fish to maintain depth without sinking or floating. The gas composition in swim bladders differs from atmospheric air, often containing higher concentrations of oxygen or nitrogen. Fish can adjust gas volume to change buoyancy, though this process takes time. Deep-sea fish often lack swim bladders or have oil-filled swim bladders instead of gas-filled ones. Gas-filled swim bladders would collapse under extreme pressure or require enormous energy to maintain. Oil-filled swim bladders or high lipid content in tissues provides buoyancy without compression issues. Marine mammals include whales, dolphins, porpoises, seals, sea lions, walruses, sea otters, polar bears, and manatees, all descended from terrestrial ancestors but have adapted extensively to marine life. They remain air-breathing and must surface regularly, unlike fish. Blue whales are the largest animals ever known to exist, including all dinosaurs. Adults can reach 30 meters long and weigh 200 tons. Their hearts weigh about 180 kilograms and pump about 200 liters of blood with each beat. A human could theoretically crawl through the aorta of a blue whale heart. Blue whale calves are the fastest-growing animals known. They gain about 90 kilograms daily during their first year, doubling their birth length in 6 months. This rapid growth is fueled by mother's milk, containing about 35 to 50% fat, far richer than cow's milk at 3 to 4% fat. Sperm whales can dive over 2,000 meters deep and stay submerged for 90 minutes or more. They hunt primarily for squid in deep water. The deepest recorded dive by any mammal is by a Cuvier's beaked whale that reached 2,992 meters and stayed down for 3 hours and 42 minutes. Dolphins echolocate by producing clicks and listening to echoes. They can detect objects the size of a golf ball from 400 feet away and can distinguish between objects of slightly different sizes or materials. Dolphin echolocation is more sophisticated than human-made sonar systems. Seals and sea lions can hold their breath for extended periods. Elephant seals can dive over 1,500 meters deep and stay submerged for over 2 hours. They achieve this through high blood volume, high myoglobin concentration in muscles, and the ability to shut down non-essential functions during dives. Sea otters have the densest fur of any mammal, with up to 1 million hairs per square inch. This provides insulation since sea otters have almost no blubber. They must eat about 25% of their body weight daily to maintain their high metabolism and body temperature in cold water. Sea turtles are reptiles that spend most of their lives at sea, but return to land to lay eggs. All sea turtle species are endangered or threatened due to habitat loss, hunting, bycatch in fishing nets, and pollution. Female sea turtles return to the same beaches where they hatched to lay their own eggs, demonstrating remarkable navigation ability. Leatherback sea turtles are the largest turtles, reaching over 2 meters long and weighing over 900 kilograms. They can dive over 1,200 meters deep and migrate across entire ocean basins, traveling over 10,000 miles between feeding and nesting areas. Seabirds spend most of their lives at sea, coming to land only to breed. They have adaptations including salt glands that excrete excess salt, waterproof plumage, and exceptional flying or diving abilities. Albatrosses can fly for days without landing, covering hundreds of miles daily while expending minimal energy. Albatrosses use dynamic soaring, flying in specific patterns that extract energy from wind gradients above waves. They can maintain flight in winds that would ground most other birds. Wandering albatrosses have wingspans up to 3.5 meters, the longest of any bird. Emperor penguins breed during Antarctic winter, arguably the harshest environment on Earth. Males incubate eggs for about 64 days without eating, surviving on stored fat while temperatures drop below -40 degrees Celsius and winds exceed 150 kilometers per hour. They can lose 45% of their body weight during this fast. Migration is common in marine animals. Many species travel thousands of miles between feeding and breeding areas. These migrations often follow seasonal food availability or allow reproduction in safer environments. Gray whales migrate about 16,000 to 22,000 kilometers round trip between Arctic feeding grounds and Mexican breeding lagoons, the longest migration of any mammal. They fast during migration and breeding season, living off stored blubber. Arctic terns migrate from Arctic to Antarctic and back annually, a round trip of about 70,000 kilometers. Over a 30-year lifespan, one tern may fly over 2 million kilometers, equivalent to flying to the moon and back 3 times. Sockeye salmon are born in freshwater streams, migrate to the ocean where they spend several years feeding and growing, then return to their exact natal streams to spawn and die. They navigate across thousands of kilometers of open ocean, then use their sense of smell to identify their home stream from the unique chemical signature of that water. European eels show the opposite pattern. They grow to maturity in freshwater rivers and lakes across Europe, then migrate over 5,000 kilometers to the Sargasso Sea in the western Atlantic to spawn. After spawning, adults die. Larvae drift with currents back to Europe, a journey taking 1 to 3 years. Bluefin tuna cross entire ocean basins multiple times. Atlantic bluefins spawn in the Gulf of Mexico and Mediterranean, then migrate to feeding grounds off North America and Europe. Tagging studies show individual tuna crossing the Atlantic multiple times, traveling over 10,000 kilometers per year. Many species perform vertical migration, daily movement between deep and surface waters. Zooplankton, fish, squids, and other animals rise toward the surface at night to feed, then descend to deeper waters during day to avoid visual predators. This migration involves billions of tons of biomass moving hundreds of meters vertically twice daily. The scale of vertical migration is so large that it's detectable by sonar as a deep scattering layer that rises at dusk and sinks at dawn. Early sonar operators thought they discovered a false seafloor, only to watch it rise toward the surface each evening. Now let's discuss how humans affect the ocean. Industrial fishing has removed enormous quantities of fish from the ocean. Global fish catch increased from about 20 million tons in 1950 to a peak of over 90 million tons in the 1990s. Catch has since plateaued or declined slightly as many fish stocks became depleted. Scientists estimate that populations of large predatory fish have declined by about 90% since 1950. Many fish stocks have collapsed, including Atlantic cod off Newfoundland, various ground fish populations, and some tuna and billfish stocks. Collapsed populations often take decades to recover even after fishing stops. Bottom trawling, dragging weighted nets across the seafloor, is particularly destructive. It destroys seafloor habitats including coral and sponge communities that take decades or centuries to develop. An estimated area equivalent to half the world's continental shelves is trawled annually. Bycatch, unintended capture of non-target species, kills millions of fish, sea turtles, seabirds, and marine mammals annually. Longline fishing for tuna and swordfish hooks hundreds of thousands of sea turtles and tens of thousands of seabirds each year. Shrimp trawling kills several pounds of non-target animals for every pound of shrimp caught. Ghost gear, lost or abandoned fishing nets and lines, continues catching and killing animals for years or decades. An estimated 640,000 tons of fishing gear is lost in oceans annually. These nets drift through the ocean, trapping fish, turtles, and marine mammals until they become too encrusted with organisms to effectively catch anything. Climate change affects oceans through warming, sea level rise, and altered circulation patterns. Ocean warming is well documented. The top 2,000 meters of ocean have warmed significantly since 1970, absorbing enormous amounts of heat energy. Warming rates are accelerating, with recent decades showing faster warming than earlier periods. Sea surface temperatures have increased by about 0.13 degrees Celsius per decade since 1979. This might seem small, but it has significant effects on marine ecosystems. Many species are shifting their ranges toward poles or deeper water to stay within their preferred temperature ranges. Marine heat waves, periods of unusually high ocean temperature lasting days to months, are becoming more frequent and intense. These events can kill massive numbers of organisms. The 2014 to 2016 marine heat wave in the Northeast Pacific killed seabirds, marine mammals, and fish across thousands of square miles. Sea level has risen about 21 to 24 centimeters since 1880, with the rate of rise accelerating. Current rise is about 3.3 millimeters per year and increasing. This rise comes from two sources: thermal expansion as water warms and expands, and addition of water from melting glaciers and ice sheets. If all ice on Greenland melted, sea level would rise about 7 meters. If all Antarctic ice melted, sea level would rise about 58 meters. Complete melting would take centuries or millennia, but even partial melting threatens hundreds of millions of people living in low-lying coastal areas. Ocean acidification, mentioned earlier, threatens marine life that builds calcium carbonate structures. Coral reefs are particularly vulnerable. Laboratory and field studies show that coral calcification rates decrease in more acidic water. Some projections suggest that if CO2 emissions continue unabated, conditions could reach levels where coral skeletons dissolve faster than corals can build them. Pteropods, tiny swimming snails that are important food for many fish, have shells that begin dissolving in acidified water. Studies in the Southern Ocean have found pteropods with partially dissolved shells, suggesting acidification is already affecting marine life. Plastic pollution in the ocean has increased dramatically since plastics became widely used in the 1950s. An estimated 8 to 10 million tons of plastic enter the ocean annually. Plastic doesn't biodegrade, but breaks into smaller pieces through sunlight and wave action. Microplastics, particles smaller than 5 millimeters, are now found throughout the ocean, from surface waters to the deepest trenches, from tropical reefs to Arctic ice. They've been found inside animals from plankton to whales and in seafood destined for human consumption. Animals mistake plastic for food or become entangled. Hundreds of thousands of marine mammals and sea turtles die annually from plastic ingestion or entanglement. Seabirds are particularly affected. Studies estimate that 90% of seabird species have ingested plastic. Other pollutants include heavy metals, persistent organic pollutants, nutrients from agricultural runoff, oil from spills and routine discharge, pharmaceutical compounds, and industrial chemicals. Many of these accumulate in marine organisms and become more concentrated up food chains. Nutrient pollution from fertilizers and sewage causes eutrophication, excessive algal growth. When algae die and decompose, bacteria consume oxygen, creating hypoxic or anoxic dead zones where most life cannot survive. Over 400 coastal dead zones have been identified, some covering thousands of square miles. Habitat destruction affects coasts worldwide. Wetlands, mangroves, seagrass beds, and coral reefs are dredged, filled, or degraded for development. An estimated 50% of wetlands and 30 to 50% of mangroves have been destroyed globally. These losses eliminate crucial nursery habitat, reduce coastal protection, and decrease biodiversity. Despite these problems, solutions exist and are being implemented successfully. Marine protected areas, regions where fishing and development are restricted or prohibited, allow ecosystems to recover. Well-managed protected areas show rapid increases in fish abundance, size, and species diversity. Currently, about 8% of the ocean is designated as protected to some degree, though only about 2.5% is fully protected with no extractive activities. International agreements aim to protect 30% of the ocean by 2030, requiring significant expansion. Sustainable fisheries management works were implemented, setting science-based catch limits, reducing bycatch, eliminating destructive fishing practices, and protecting habitat all allow fish populations to rebuild. Several collapsed fisheries have recovered under proper management, demonstrating that recovery is possible. Pollution reduction requires source control, better waste management, reducing single-use plastics, improving agricultural practices, and treating sewage before discharge all reduce ocean pollution. Many countries have implemented such measures with measurable improvements. Addressing climate change requires reducing greenhouse gas emissions globally. This is challenging but necessary. The ocean cannot recover from warming and acidification without limiting CO2 emissions at their source. Restoration efforts help damaged ecosystems recover. Coral reef restoration involves growing coral fragments in underwater nurseries and transplanting them to degraded reefs. Success rates vary, but some restored reefs show recovery comparable to natural reefs within 5 to 10 years. Mangrove restoration re-establishes these crucial coastal forests. Restored mangroves provide coastal protection, carbon storage, and habitat within years, though full maturity takes decades. Successful restoration requires understanding local hydrology and selecting appropriate species. Seagrass restoration is more challenging, but has succeeded in several locations. Virginia's coastal bays have seen over 9,000 acres of seagrass restored since the 1990s through seed planting. The restored meadows now self-sustain and support diverse marine life. Technology aids conservation. Satellite monitoring detects illegal fishing in protected areas. Drones survey marine habitats and track wildlife populations. Environmental DNA sampling detects species presence from water samples without capturing animals. These tools make conservation more effective and efficient. Individual actions contribute to ocean health. Reducing consumption, choosing sustainable seafood, avoiding single-use plastics, supporting conservation organizations, and advocating for environmental policies all help. When millions of people make small changes, the cumulative effect becomes significant. Education increases ocean literacy and support for conservation. As more people understand ocean issues and their importance, political and economic pressure for protection grows. Youth engagement in ocean conservation suggests long-term commitment to marine protection. The ocean's future depends on choices made now. Current trajectories show continuing degradation, but course corrections are possible. The ocean has remarkable resilience when given opportunity to recover. Protection and restoration efforts worldwide demonstrate that positive change is achievable. Let's discuss some specific measurements and numbers that reveal the ocean's scale and importance. The ocean's surface area is approximately 361 million square kilometers, or 139 million square miles. This represents 71% of Earth's surface. The Pacific Ocean alone covers 165 million square kilometers, more area than all land on Earth combined. The ocean's volume is approximately 1.335 billion cubic kilometers. If spread evenly over Earth's entire surface, the ocean would form a layer about 2.7 kilometers deep. The average depth of 3,688 meters means that a cube with sides equal to the ocean's average depth would fit inside the ocean's actual volume about 97 times. Water density at the surface averages 1.025 kilograms per liter, but increases with depth due to compression. At the bottom of Challenger Deep, water is about 5% denser than at the surface. This might seem small, but it means water at extreme depth is noticeably less compressible than surface water. The mass of dissolved salt in the ocean is approximately 50 quadrillion kilograms. If this salt were dried and spread evenly over Earth's land surface, it would form a layer about 150 meters thick. The rate of salt input from rivers is about 2.5 billion tons per year, balanced by removal through sea spray, mineral precipitation, and burial in sediments. Ocean currents transport enormous volumes. The Gulf Stream moves about 30 million cubic meters per second at its maximum, equivalent to 30,000 Olympic swimming pools per second. The Antarctic circumpolar current transports about 135 million cubic meters per second, more than 100 times all river flow on Earth combined. Current velocities vary greatly. Surface currents in major current systems reach 2 meters per second, or about 4 knots. Deep circulation moves much more slowly, typically less than 1 centimeter per second. At these speeds, deep water takes centuries to millennia to complete circulation patterns. Wave energy is proportional to wave height squared and wavelength. A 2-meter wave with 10-second period carries about 5 kilowatts per meter of wave crest. A 4-meter wave with the same period carries about 20 kilowatts per meter. Large storms generate waves carrying megawatts per meter, representing enormous energy that dissipates when waves break. Tidal energy dissipation totals about 3.7 terawatts globally, mostly through friction in shallow seas and coastal areas. This energy comes from Earth's rotational energy, which is why tides gradually slow Earth's rotation. The rotational energy loss is tiny compared to Earth's total rotational energy, so the effect accumulates over geological timescales. Photosynthesis by marine phytoplankton produces about 50 to 85 billion tons of organic carbon annually. This equals or exceeds terrestrial plant production, despite phytoplankton biomass being much smaller than terrestrial plant biomass. The high productivity per unit biomass results from rapid turnover. Phytoplankton populations double every few days in productive waters. Oxygen production by phytoplankton is estimated at 130 to 140 billion tons annually. This represents about 50% of global oxygen production, with terrestrial plants producing the other 50%. However, most oxygen produced by phytoplankton is consumed by marine organisms, so the net oxygen contribution to the atmosphere is small. The ocean's major contribution was in the past, when photosynthetic organisms first evolved and filled the atmosphere with oxygen. Carbon export to the deep ocean through the biological pump is estimated at 5 to 12 billion tons per year. This represents carbon removed from surface waters and sequestered at depth for centuries or longer. Without this pump, atmospheric CO2 would be significantly higher. Dissolved organic carbon in the ocean totals about 700 billion tons, comparable to the amount of carbon in atmospheric CO2. This dissolved organic matter is chemically diverse, ranging from simple sugars and amino acids to complex refractory compounds that resist decomposition for thousands of years. Fish production in the ocean is estimated at several hundred million tons annually. This includes all fish growth, most of which is consumed by predators within the marine ecosystem. Human fish catch of about 90 million tons per year represents roughly 20% of total fish production, a significant fraction that explains why overfishing occurs so easily. Whale populations before commercial whaling totaled about 1 to 2 million large whales. Commercial whaling killed over 2 million whales in the 20th century alone. Current populations are estimated at 200,000 to 300,000 large whales, roughly 10 to 30% of pre-whaling numbers. Some species have recovered more than others. Humpback whales now exceed 80,000 individuals, while blue whales remain below 15,000. Coral reef area totals about 284,000 square kilometers globally, less than 0.1% of ocean area. Yet these reefs support an estimated 25% of all marine fish species. Reef fish diversity includes over 4,000 species, with some reefs harboring over 1,000 species in relatively small areas. Coral growth rates vary by species and conditions, but typically range from 0.3 to 10 centimeters per year. Fast-growing branching corals can add 10 centimeters annually. Slow-growing massive corals add less than 1 centimeter per year. Large coral colonies are often centuries old. A 3-meter diameter coral growing at 1 centimeter per year would be about 150 years old. Seagrass productivity ranges from 500 to 1,000 grams of carbon per square meter per year, comparable to highly productive terrestrial ecosystems. This high productivity supports diverse communities and contributes to coastal carbon storage. Seagrass meadows also trap sediment and particles, improving water clarity. Mangrove productivity is similarly high, ranging from 500 to 800 grams of carbon per square meter per year. Mangroves store carbon not only in their biomass, but in deep sediments that can accumulate for thousands of years. Per unit area, mangroves store more carbon than most terrestrial forests. Deep-sea biomass is much lower than surface waters, but still significant given the enormous volume involved. Estimates suggest deep-sea fish biomass totals 1 to 10 billion tons, with large uncertainty due to limited sampling. Most deep-sea fish are small, under 10 centimeters long, but they collectively represent substantial biomass. Hydrothermal vent communities can have very high local biomass despite existing in otherwise sparse deep-sea environments. Biomass near vents can exceed 10 kilograms per square meter, comparable to productive shallow water communities. However, vent communities cover tiny areas. All known vent sites combined total less than 100 square kilometers. The ocean's heat content has increased by about 228 zettajoules since 1970. 1 zettajoule equals 1 followed by 21 zeros joules. This amount of energy could power all human civilization for over 20 years. This energy is distributed throughout the ocean's volume, so temperature increases are modest, but the total energy involved is staggering. Sea level rise of about 3.3 millimeters per year means the ocean is adding about 400 cubic kilometers of water annually through thermal expansion and ice melt. This volume equals about 160 million Olympic swimming pools. The rise is accelerating, with recent years showing rates closer to 4 millimeters per year. Ocean acidification has lowered pH by 0.1 units since pre-industrial times. In chemical terms, this represents a 30% increase in hydrogen ion concentration. Future projections under high CO2 emissions scenarios suggest pH could drop another 0.3 to 0.4 units by 2100, representing conditions not seen in millions of years. Plastic in the ocean is estimated at 150 to 250 million tons currently, with 8 to 10 million tons added annually. At current rates, ocean plastic could triple by 2040. Microplastics are found at densities exceeding 100,000 particles per cubic meter in some locations, though average concentrations are much lower. These numbers illustrate the ocean's immense scale and the significant changes occurring. The ocean is vast but finite. Its capacity to absorb impacts is large but not unlimited. Understanding these quantitative facts helps grasp both the ocean's importance and its vulnerability. Let's examine some specific ocean regions and their unique characteristics. The Atlantic Ocean, second largest ocean, covers about 106 million square kilometers. It's relatively narrow compared to the Pacific, with the Mid-Atlantic Ridge running down its center. This ridge is the boundary where the ocean widens as new crust forms. The Atlantic has higher average salinity than the Pacific, about 35 parts per thousand versus 34. This occurs because the Atlantic has higher evaporation rates and proportionally less freshwater input from rivers. The higher salinity affects deep water formation and circulation patterns. Atlantic deep water formation occurs in the North Atlantic, where cold, salty surface water becomes dense and sinks. This drives the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, a key component of global ocean circulation. Changes in this circulation would have worldwide climate effects. The Pacific Ocean is the largest and deepest ocean, covering about 165 million square kilometers and containing more than half the ocean's water volume. It includes the deepest points. All ocean depths exceeding 10,000 meters are in the Pacific. The Pacific's vast size affects global weather patterns, particularly the El Niño Southern Oscillation. El Niño events occur every 2 to 7 years when trade winds weaken, allowing warm water to accumulate in the eastern Pacific. This shifts weather patterns worldwide, causing droughts in some regions and floods in others. La Niña events represent the opposite pattern, with enhanced trade winds and cooler eastern Pacific waters. The Indian Ocean is the third largest, covering about 70 million square kilometers. It's unique in being mostly in the southern hemisphere, bounded by Asia to the north. The Indian Ocean has strong seasonal monsoon influences, with winds and currents reversing direction between summer and winter monsoons. The Southern Ocean, surrounding Antarctica, is increasingly recognized as a distinct ocean. It's characterized by the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, which effectively isolates Antarctic waters from warmer waters to the north. This isolation helps maintain the Antarctic ice sheet and affects global climate. Antarctic waters are extremely productive despite cold temperatures. High oxygen levels, seasonal ice melt providing nutrients, and continuous daylight during summer support massive phytoplankton blooms. These blooms support krill, which support whales, seals, and penguins. The Arctic Ocean is the smallest and shallowest ocean, covering about 14 million square kilometers with average depth of only 1,200 meters. It's mostly covered by sea ice year-round, though ice extent varies seasonally and has decreased significantly in recent decades. Arctic sea ice extent at the end of summer has decreased by about 13% per decade since 1979. Some projections suggest the Arctic could be ice-free in summer within decades. This would have profound effects on Arctic ecosystems, indigenous peoples who depend on ice, and global climate. The Mediterranean Sea, though technically not an ocean, is a large semi-enclosed sea with unique characteristics. It has very high salinity, about 38 parts per thousand, due to high evaporation and limited freshwater input. Water flows in from the Atlantic at the surface and out at depth, creating a two-layer circulation. The Mediterranean has been nearly or completely dry several times in geological history when the connection to the Atlantic closed. During these periods, massive salt deposits formed, some over 1 kilometer thick. These deposits are now buried under sediments, but show that even large seas can dry completely. The Caribbean Sea is a tropical sea known for coral reefs and warm, clear water. It's bounded by island arcs and connected to the Atlantic and Pacific via the Panama Canal. The Caribbean has been affected by hurricanes, overfishing, pollution, and coral bleaching, but conservation efforts are helping some reefs recover. The Gulf of Mexico is a semi-enclosed sea connected to the Atlantic. It's known for the loop current, which eventually becomes the Gulf Stream. The Gulf has productive fisheries, significant oil and gas reserves, and recurring problems with hypoxic dead zones caused by nutrient runoff from the Mississippi River. The South China Sea is one of the world's busiest shipping areas and has significant fisheries and potential oil reserves. It's also a region of territorial disputes, demonstrating that ocean resources can drive geopolitical tensions. Coral reefs in the region face threats from overfishing, pollution, and coastal development. The Baltic Sea is a brackish sea with low salinity, averaging only 7 parts per thousand, due to heavy river input and limited connection to the North Sea. Low salinity affects species distribution. Many marine species cannot survive there, while many freshwater species cannot tolerate even its low salinity. These regional differences illustrate ocean diversity. Despite being interconnected, different ocean basins and seas have distinct characteristics affecting climate, ecosystems, and human activities. Understanding regional differences is crucial for effective ocean management and conservation. Let's discuss some less known but important ocean facts. The ocean absorbs about 25% of human CO2 emissions, in addition to the 30% mentioned earlier that causes acidification. This means the ocean removes more CO2 from the atmosphere than all terrestrial forests combined. Without this absorption, atmospheric CO2 concentrations would be about 450 parts per million, instead of the current 420 parts per million. The ocean contains about 38,000 gigatons of dissolved inorganic carbon, roughly 50 times more than the atmosphere. This vast carbon reservoir means that ultimately, much of the CO2 we emit will end up in the ocean over centuries to millennia. This long-term absorption will eventually reduce atmospheric CO2, but the process is slow and ocean acidification will intensify in the meantime. Oxygen minimum zones, mentioned earlier, are expanding. Measurements show that the volume of ocean water with less than 2 milligrams of oxygen per liter has increased by 4.5 million square kilometers since 1960. This expansion results from ocean warming. Warmer water holds less oxygen, and increased stratification reduces oxygen supply to deep waters. The ocean loses about 50 to 80 million tons of fish biomass annually to human fishing. This removal has cascading effects throughout marine food webs. Removing large predators allows their prey to increase, which in turn affects what the prey eat, creating complex changes that ripple through ecosystems. Marine protected areas currently cover about 28 million square kilometers, roughly 8% of the ocean. However, only about 2.5% is fully protected with no fishing or extractive activities. The remainder allows some activities, providing varying levels of actual protection. Effective protection requires not just designating areas, but also enforcing regulations. The ocean floor has been mapped at high resolution for only about 20% of its area. The remaining 80% is known only from satellite measurements of sea surface height, which reveals large underwater features but not details. Completing high-resolution ocean floor mapping would reveal unknown underwater mountains, canyons, and other features. There are an estimated 100,000 underwater mountains, called seamounts, rising at least 1,000 meters above the surrounding seafloor. Many remain undiscovered and uncharted. Seamounts often support unique ecosystems and high biodiversity because they disrupt currents, bringing nutrients to surface waters and creating habitat complexity. Submarine canyons, underwater canyons often extending from continental shelves to abyssal plains, number in the thousands. Some rival or exceed the Grand Canyon in size. The Monterey Canyon off California descends to over 3,000 meters depth, just 30 kilometers from shore. These canyons channel sediment, nutrients, and organisms from shallow to deep water. Underwater landslides can involve cubic kilometers of sediment moving at speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. The Storegga slide off Norway about 8,000 years ago involved 3,500 cubic kilometers of sediment and triggered a tsunami that devastated coastlines around the North Atlantic. Such massive landslides occur every few thousand years. The ocean contains an estimated 20 million tons of gold, as mentioned earlier, but also 4 billion tons of uranium. These elements are so diluted that extraction would cost far more than their value. However, they demonstrate that seawater contains virtually every element, though most in trace quantities. Brine pools exist on the ocean floor where extremely salty water, denser than seawater, collects in depressions. These pools can be several times saltier than normal seawater and are toxic to most marine life. They form when salt deposits dissolve, creating supersalty water that sinks and accumulates. Methane hydrates, ice-like structures where methane molecules are trapped in frozen water, exist in deep ocean sediments and beneath permafrost. Estimates suggest these deposits contain more carbon than all other fossil fuel reserves combined. If warming destabilizes these hydrates, releasing methane to the atmosphere, it could accelerate climate change dramatically. The ocean produces about 50% of Earth's oxygen, as stated earlier, but consumes about 50% of oxygen through respiration by marine organisms. The net oxygen flux to the atmosphere from the ocean is nearly zero. The ocean's major oxygen contribution was in the past, building up atmospheric oxygen over billions of years. Seawater pH naturally varies by location and depth. Surface waters in productive regions can have pH exceeding 8.5 during phytoplankton blooms as algae consume CO2. Deep waters have lower pH, typically 7.8 to 8.0, because they contain more dissolved CO2 from respiration and decomposition. The global average of 8.1 masks this variability. Ocean circulation patterns affect nutrient distribution and biological productivity. In general, old deep water, water that has been isolated from the surface for centuries, accumulates nutrients from decomposing organic matter. When this water upwells, it fertilizes surface waters, supporting high productivity. The oldest water in the ocean is in the deep North Pacific, isolated from the surface for over 1,500 years. This water contains very high nutrient concentrations and very low oxygen levels. When it eventually returns to the surface, it supports extremely productive ecosystems off the west coast of North America. El Niño events, mentioned earlier, have occurred throughout recorded history. Historical records from Peru mention unusual warming events and fish population changes dating back centuries. The term El Niño, Spanish for the boy child, refers to the Christ child because these events typically begin around Christmas. Ocean color varies from deep blue in oligotrophic regions with few phytoplankton to green in productive regions with high phytoplankton concentrations. Satellites measure ocean color to monitor phytoplankton abundance globally. These measurements show seasonal patterns, annual variations, and long-term trends in ocean productivity. Salinity patterns show that the Atlantic transports salt northward. This occurs because evaporation exceeds precipitation in the tropical and subtropical Atlantic, increasing salinity, while precipitation exceeds evaporation in the high-latitude Atlantic. The result is net northward salt transport that helps maintain Atlantic deep water formation. The Pacific shows the opposite pattern, with net southward salt transport. This difference between Atlantic and Pacific affects global circulation. The Atlantic's saltier water allows deep water formation that drives the global conveyor belt circulation. These facts reveal ocean complexity and interconnectedness. Physical, chemical, and biological processes interact across scales from microscopic to global. Understanding these interactions requires integrating knowledge from many scientific disciplines. The ocean's role in Earth's systems extends beyond what we've discussed. It affects atmospheric chemistry, influences geological processes, and has shaped the evolution of life. The ocean and atmosphere are intimately coupled. What happens in one affects the other. Hurricanes and typhoons derive energy from warm ocean water. Sea surface temperatures above 26.5 degrees Celsius provide enough energy for tropical cyclone formation. Warmer ocean temperatures mean more energy available, potentially increasing cyclone intensity. Records show that the proportion of intense tropical cyclones has increased as oceans warm. Ocean spray, tiny droplets ejected into the atmosphere by breaking waves, contains salt, organic matter, and microorganisms. This spray seeds clouds, affects atmospheric chemistry, and may even transport viable organisms through the atmosphere. An estimated 3 billion tons of sea salt enter the atmosphere annually through spray. Dimethyl sulfide, a gas produced by phytoplankton, is emitted from the ocean to the atmosphere where it oxidizes to sulfate aerosols. These aerosols seed clouds, affecting cloud albedo and potentially climate. This represents a feedback loop where ocean biology affects clouds, which affects sunlight reaching the ocean, which affects biology. The ocean has experienced dramatic changes throughout Earth's history. During ice ages, Sea level dropped over 100 meters as water became locked in ice sheets. Continental shelves were exposed as dry land. Many current coastal areas were tens of kilometers inland. This repeatedly altered ocean basin configurations and circulation patterns. During the Eocene epoch, about 50 million years ago, Earth was much warmer and ice-free. The Arctic Ocean was nearly tropical, with palm-like trees growing near the North Pole. Ocean circulation was very different without polar ice, affecting global climate distribution. About 252 million years ago, the Permian-Triassic extinction killed an estimated 96% of marine species, the most severe extinction event known. Evidence suggests massive volcanic eruptions released CO2 and other gases, warming the climate and acidifying the ocean. The ocean became stratified and anoxic, creating conditions incompatible with most complex life. Recovery took millions of years, demonstrating that while life is resilient over geological timescales, severe disruptions can have very long-lasting effects. Current changes are occurring much faster than past natural changes, giving species less time to adapt. The ocean teaches humility. Despite centuries of study, we've explored only a tiny fraction of its volume. Every expedition discovers new species. Every research project reveals new processes. Our ignorance far exceeds our knowledge. Yet what we do know demonstrates the ocean's crucial importance. It regulates climate, produces oxygen, provides food, supports countless species, and shapes Earth's geology and chemistry. It has made Earth habitable and keeps it habitable. The ocean connects everything. Currents link distant regions. Migrating animals transport nutrients across basins. Atmospheric exchanges couple ocean and land. Actions anywhere eventually affect everywhere. There are no isolated ocean problems, only interconnected challenges requiring coordinated responses. The ocean's future is uncertain. Current trends suggest continuing degradation, but change is possible. Protection and restoration efforts show that recovery is achievable. Technology provides tools for monitoring and management. Growing awareness drives political and economic pressure for action. Individual choices matter. Consumption patterns, purchasing decisions, political engagement all influence ocean health. When millions make ocean-friendly choices, the cumulative effect becomes significant. Education and awareness are powerful forces for change. The ocean has sustained life for billions of years. It has weathered asteroid impacts, supervolcano eruptions, ice ages, and mass extinctions. It is resilient over geological timescales, but resilience has limits, and current changes are rapid and severe. We face a choice: continue current trajectories and accept degraded oceans with diminished capacity to support life and regulate climate, or change course, protect and restore ocean health, and ensure the ocean can continue its essential functions. The science is clear. The ocean is changing faster than at any time in human history. Multiple stressors, warming, acidification, overfishing, pollution, habitat destruction, interact and amplify each other. But solutions exist and are effective when implemented. The ocean deserves our attention, respect, and protection, not just because we need it, though we absolutely do, but because it is one of the universe's marvels, a vast system of extraordinary complexity and beauty that sustains all life on Earth. These facts are not complete, they cannot be in any finite discussion, but they represent our current scientific understanding based on measurements, observations, and experiments. They show both how much we've learned and how much remains to discover. The ocean continues teaching us. Every wave carries information. Every current tells a story. Every organism reveals evolutionary solutions. The ocean is a book we are still learning to read, written in the language of physics, chemistry, and biology. We are privileged to live on a planet with such an ocean. Let's ensure it remains healthy, productive, and full of life, for ourselves, for future generations, and for all the species that call the ocean home. The ocean has sustained us. Now it needs us to sustain it. These are the real, verified facts about our ocean. Facts based on decades of careful research by thousands of scientists worldwide. Facts that reveal both the ocean's grandeur and its vulnerability. Facts that should inspire wonder, respect, and action. The ocean is not infinite. It is not inexhaustible. It is not invulnerable, but it is magnificent, essential, and worth protecting. Understanding these facts is the first step toward ensuring the ocean remains healthy for centuries to come. Sleep well knowing that the ocean continues its eternal rhythms. Currents flow, tides rise and fall, waves break on distant shores, life persists in the depths. The ocean endures as it has for billions of years, and with proper care, it will endure for billions more.